is WrestleMania the same without it? Because I just don't feel it is. Like, this Mania Just Gone was the first time since 1988 that neither Shawn Michaels, Triple H, or The Undertaker were on the card. And I think without the streak, so this isn't just like recently, but obviously ever since Mania 30, when the streak was lost, Mania is just not the same.
No.
Without having that there. Do you know what I mean?
No, I completely agree. Because again, all three of us grew up in the Attitude Era when the streak was, you know, a big thing. And, you know, going through, even like after you'd just watched a Mania, you couldn't wait to see what the next match he had on the following Mania. And yeah, like you said, it for so many years, it was such an integral part of Mania. It isn't the same without it. And that is 100% my opinion. And I'm entitled to it, so if you don't like it, tough.
I mean, I agree with it.
But yeah, honestly though, it's just not the same without it. Because again, like you said, what makes a WrestleMania? Well, to me, an Undertaker match at Mania is one of the things that made it a Mania. You know, it was one of them special things. Again, like Undertaker would have matches like throughout the year, but you knew when he had that Mania match, it was going to be something completely special. Especially when you wake up just as soon as the finish is about to happen, and then you still don't believe it. Because one thing, you know how most YouTube channels now have reactions to like Mania, and they're always whenever like a big moment happens, so everyone's shocked. Just imagine what if people did that back then at 30.
Yeah,
it probably should have been with Roman at 33. Was it
33?
Yeah, I think it was 33.
When
we thought he was going to retire anyway, and that could have been his last match. That probably should have been it. But then, obviously, with Last Ride, how he wasn't happy with a lot of the stuff that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
but it's just even after, like.
But could you imagine that Roman Reigns of now against Taker?
Oh, but that would work.
That match would be like one of the best. If that Roman, like today's Roman, was in that match, that would have been like, yeah.
With the streak, it was one of those things, like, for me, from a fan perspective, and obviously having like Taker's, Taker's my guy. So like you go into Mania and there's nothing more important than the streak for like when you're a big Undertaker fan, right? So you go in, the build doesn't even matter that much. Like when the builds were really good, that was like a really good, like a good added bonus. You know, like we said about the whole 4-year-long thing between Michaels and Triple H. Awesome. But like, it was the idea that you're going in and is the streak in jeopardy? Even when you didn't think it was, like, Mark Henry casket match, Mania 22, right? Was it really in jeopardy? Probably not really, but there's just a smidgen of doubt. So when you're watching it, it just invokes like genuine reactions. That match is not even really like one of the best. It's never going to go down as greatest Mania match of all time. But the thing is, you still remember these things because it was what was surrounding it. Because it's WrestleMania, it's the streak. Whether the match is good or not, it's going to be a big, integral part of the show. And you're going to come away from it. Even if you don't remember a damn thing about the match, you're going to pop because there's one more number on the streak.
Yeah.
That's the pop.
Yeah.
Right? And without it, it's gone. Because when Taker come back for the match with Bray at 31, it just was flat for emotion. Like, it wasn't a bad match, but it just didn't mean anything anymore from a fan's perspective. And I think it was more because it was the first one since the streak was gone. So it was always going to be a bit of more of a bitter taste. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, it just, for me, WrestleMania without the streak, it's lost something. And it's going to have to go eventually, whether he retired with the streak intact or not. Because he was never going to be able to carry it on forever. But you're never going to have the streak again. So that element of WrestleMania is forever gone.
Yeah. And I think it's the worst thing I ever did.
I don't mind that they got rid of it. I wouldn't have minded to see the streak end if he was genuine at the end of his career. But like you said there, with Reigns, how Reigns is now.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. But it's the idea I think that a lot of people were more pissed off about was the fact that it was dropped to a part-timer in Brock Lesnar who didn't need it. And there's still a huge argument to be made that Lesnar didn't need it, although his character became intensified after that because he had this huge squash against Cena at the SummerSlam following. Yeah, and he became, and for a while, actually, he was pretty over. But it got stale and it got old real quick because it was just champion who's never there, wins with 16 suplexes in a 5-minute match and then goes.
Yeah.
So it just, overall, long term, what did it really accomplish? And I think Vince said, according to, I think it's in the Last Ride documentary or somewhere, I might have been in the Stone Cold Broken Skull sessions actually, but Vince had said that, well, if not Brock, then who?
Well, at the time, yeah. Because...
really?
Well, Brock had a legitimacy with the UFC stuff and the amateur stuff, but... Because... We always wanted that... We did want that Cena match, we wanted that Sting match. We got the Cena match. Some of us watched it, Russ.
Kind of.
You know. But... after the match...
But who, though? Like, is that not lazy, though? Like, you say, all right, Lesnar's got the UFC legitimacy, but that's what bugs me about this. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but UFC legitimacy shouldn't really mean anything in the world of pro wrestling, because when you're saying about someone's UFC MMA legitimate, you're downplaying pro wrestling, and it's advertising further that this is the fake stuff, this is the real stuff. Like, that's how it comes across. I think they did it with the Ronda, Charlotte and Lynch match, like, really well, but Ronda was working a lot more as well, and she turned heel, and there was a lot more pieces at play. I just don't like that whole, like, UFC legitimate. You build stars, right? That's what you're meant to do. They've built Roman, and Roman is at a point where you could see him now, as he is now, beating Taker. When he beat him at 33, it just didn't go down very well. Not just because of the match, in my opinion, but because I don't think people wanted to see it.
No. Going back in history, though, one person that I think could have broken the streak was Kane at the first time. Because it would have billed Kane as that killer that he was meant to be.
Which is crazy, because, again, that's before the streak was really acknowledged as the streak.
Yeah. Because you always hear stories that Orton was going to do it, Edge was going to do it, Kurt Angle was going to do it. Maybe even Punk might have done it. But they never did. Because they didn't want to do it. Like the wrestlers themselves.
I don't know. You don't know how much truth there is to some of them. I mean, unless it comes from their mouths, I guess. But
could you imagine if Bossman had won that Hell in a Cell match?
Well, this is what I mean. But again, it's before the streak was the streak.
Yeah.
Like, it existed, but it's before the streak was a streak. I don't know. As soon as you knew it was there, it's like it just took on this whole thing of its own. Because realistically, like we said before, if the streak was only really acknowledged at around about the 10-0 point for Mania 18, it only then ended up, well, I say only, but it was only then for just over half of the streak's longevity, the streak's life, that it was actually acknowledged. But it spans, when you look at the history of it and you look at Mania moments, you look at 21 years worth of it, when realistically, it was only packaged into what was probably about 9 or 10 builds for an actual streak.
Yeah. Yeah, because even the Mania 19 handicap match, they don't really talk about it that much. They just say, Undertaker's got 10 wins. It was the first time I remember them actually talking about it was with the Orton Mania 21.
Yeah. Which is weird, though, because, again, the handicap match should have been, on paper, is the biggest legitimate threat that he's had to lose in the streak, because it was a 2-on-1.
And it was Big Show and A-Train.
Last week, right, exactly. But like we said last week, it just feels strange that they never did do like a triple threat with it, because, more of a chance that, it's a bigger threat because he doesn't have to be pinned or made to tap out to lose the streak. And potentially maybe, as he was reaching more towards the end of his career, would a triple threat have maybe helped more because he's, he can take more breaks and I don't know, it's not me writing it, obviously, and I'm not trying to be armchair booker, but it's just one of those things, like, I wished I'd have seen it. Like, you want to talk about Mania moments. What about Mania moments that you wish you'd seen, that you knew were going to be a Mania moment, but they just never were? Sting, Taker, stare down at Mania, or a match.
Because I remember there was a photo of them two in the airport after 31, talking to each other like it was going to happen. It's going to happen. Nope.
But it never did, and it never will.
Well, let's take a go to AEW, and they do a
yeah, the Overtaker. But no, it's not the same since the streak. It's still, you know, it's just something apart. Your childhood died with the streak a little bit, and I just feel like a bit of WrestleMania died with the streak as well.
Well, that's the real moments that I don't think there's been another one since that's had that effect.
No, not in terms of wins, losses. No, it's the only wins and losses kind of thing that really mattered at Mania, like in terms of like a consistent thing.
I did it.